And let's get into it, man. What is going on with Brandon Aiyuk? And let me pose a question this way, Rob, because I've been kind of putting it on Kyle Shanahan because I feel like I was looking for him to throw some maybe wide receiver screens to Aiyuk, get him into some jet sweeps, let him be the electric athlete that we know he is. But when I watched, Grant's show with Jack Hammer, they were kind of saying Shanahan is running plays for Aiyuk. It's that Jimmy isn't throwing him the ball. So, do you think that the Brandon Aiyuk thing is more of a Shanahan Aiyuk issue, or do you think it's more of a Jimmy Aiyuk issue?
That's a tough call. I think that you have to assign blame all the way around. I think that you have to look at each individual that you're talking about there and then examine why it is they have contributed to this issue. So I think that you have to start with the player. You have to start with Brandon Aiyuk. You have to ask, how did he end up in this position where he was being questioned as the number one presumptive wide receiver on this team, the go-to guy? And that was with a less than stellar training camp and preseason. It was good, but not great. And we know that Shanahan has this theory about second year players and really wants them to come in and prove themselves and, show themselves to have this dog mentality and fight for it. And he doesn't want to see complacency. He doesn't want to sense that people feel like they've arrived in the league. So there's some blame to be had for Brandon in not coming in and performing the way he needed to perform to set himself up for success. But I also think you have to look at the play calling. And I think that clearly week one, that seemed to be the issue. Week two, I tend to agree that a lot of those routes were there, but the throw wasn't made. And so it's a combination there of the routes that Brandon is being asked to run are the routes that Jimmy throws less frequently. I'll never say that Jimmy can't make a throw on the field. I believe Jimmy Garoppolo is capable of making any throw on the field. Is he capable of making them consistently? No. There are throws that he struggles with. He can make them once in a blue moon, but they're not ones that you can count on him regularly to get the ball out there. So to me, it has to be that combination of factors. I think that you have to look at what has Brandon brought to the table? What are the routes and the amount of plays that he's on the field for? And then has Jimmy been able to get the ball for him? Admittedly, I haven't looked close enough, not having access to the All-22 at the moment, haven't looked close enough to definitively say of those, I think it was 30-some routes that he ran, that he was definitively open on X number of those. But in getting the summary from Grant and Jack's show, it seems that there were at least some plays left out on the table.
Yeah. I like the cop out, all of the above. That wasn't even an Rob play. Hey,
I don't want to blame any one player, but that's the nuance in life, is that there's never one person, never one item that's necessarily guilty of everything. It's always a combination of factors.
You're being too realistic right now. So I'm going to go out of my way to say it's a Jimmy thing. And the reason why I think, when I'm looking back at last year and Aiyuk that had, a pretty solid rookie season, if not a really good rookie season, he wasn't being thrown the ball by Jimmy. It was by Nick Mullins, who we know is a little more of a gunslinger than Jimmy, willing to take more risks. CJ Beathard was there, who also, throws the ball down the field a lot more than Jimmy. And Brandon Aiyuk is more of a deep route runner and a deep threat than an inside type receiver like Debo is. So it's interesting that all of a sudden, now that Jimmy's back to being a quarterback, Debo is going off and having his biggest start to any season that he's ever had. And Brandon Aiyuk is now nowhere to be seen, right? So to me, 2 + 2 = 4. If the equation changes, all of a sudden, X equals whatever, like calculus kind of stuff. But I really think that Jimmy, the type of receiver Aiyuk is, doesn't mesh well with the type of quarterback Jimmy is. And the more and more I think deeply about this, because I drafted Brandon Aiyuk in every single one of my fantasy drafts. I think that it isn't. I think that if Trey was the quarterback, we'd have a different narrative about Brandon Aiyuk. But Trey isn't the quarterback, and I'm not saying he should be the quarterback. All I'm saying is I'm probably expecting Aiyuk to be less than stellar as long as Jimmy Garoppolo is the quarterback of the 49ers.
So you don't think that the two of them are going to get on the same page and turn this around? The prediction as of right now on the record is the idea that until we see Trey, there won't be that type of chemistry that we're hoping for.
I think it's not going to be the type of year that we saw last year. Yeah, it's going to go down as a disappointing season, which is going to be tough for Aiyuk because I think that he could have a better season if those opportunities were there, right? He's not a guy like the underneath route is going to go to Kittle or is going to go to Debo. You can't have everybody run the underneath route. So if you look at it, Aiyuk is always the deep route. And if you have a quarterback that only throws the ball one time a game deep, which was Jimmy in 2019, it was a little over one time a game. And he only throws it when it's like wide open. He's not trying to thread it. You know what I mean? That makes your window of opportunity, if you're Brandon Aiyuk, very, very small to be able to have much success. And yeah, my prediction is it's going to go off as a disappointing season unless Trey Lance gets in there, and then we can actually see Aiyuk do more.
All right. Well, this is our first major point of contention here, Sunil, that I completely disagree in that I'm counting on Aiyuk to have a breakout game at some point and the chemistry to start to gel. I think Kyle Shanahan is capable of scheming a player. I think that when he wants to get someone the ball, he does. I just don't think we've seen it yet. And it perplexes me and it frustrates me. And I'm right there with you. I have Aiyuk in one league. Thankfully, I went heavy on Debo, and to this point, that has been very rewarding.
Right.
But I mean, I just think the breakout is coming. The talent is there. I do think that Shanahan wanted to send a message. I disagree with the way in which he decided to do that, but I feel like the message is sent at this point. You're hearing him walk it back with every opportunity that he gets, that there is no doghouse, that there are no droids here. Like it's just the trying to get us to think one thing. But I think that the reality in my book is this game sets up for that breakout. And if we go one more week without Aiyuk having a big game on the show that we do next week, I will have to admit I was wrong, because I think this is it. And we only have to wait a week to find out.
I hope I'm wrong because I want Aiyuk to do well. I want the team to do well. Raymond Martinez Jr., my guy, great point, Sunil. He's on team Indian. Harold Murillo, it's a chemistry issue. Why doesn't Jimmy take the initiative to build chemistry with the receivers? That is a big criticism that Jimmy receives from others. And then Steve Supremo kind of answered, Aiyuk chose to work out with Lance during the offseason, so how can Jimmy initiate chemistry? What do you think about the whole chemistry issue and maybe Jimmy reaching out to Aiyuk and saying, hey, let's get on the same page? Do you think that's something that is happening, something that should happen? Or, you believe that the chemistry is going to get better, right? So
I do. Well, I think that winning cures everything. I'm a big believer in that. And so I think that as long as the 49ers can keep the positive momentum this season, I don't think that there will be fractures in the locker room. I don't think that the two quarterback system will be an issue. However, if they start to drop games, I change my tune on that. So as of right now, we're 2-0. So I'm sticking with the idea that winning solves everything. So I do think that Jimmy and Brandon will get on the same page just through that natural progression. Brandon Aiyuk certainly did make the decision to go spend time with Trey Lance. He invested early. He may have done that thinking that Trey was going to be the starter this season. And that may still turn out to be the case, whether it is for 2 games, 12 games, or 14 games, right? You never know how it's going to play out. That time spent with Trey may benefit him later, but it did take away potential time that he could have been spending with Jimmy Garoppolo that clearly he wasn't. So I'm not saying that there's nothing to that. I just see the skill set matching up, that once Kyle decides he wants to use that tool in the tool chest, he will design plays specifically to get Brandon the ball, and we'll see the talent that we all know is there. It's just not being showcased. My hope is that he has been holding back a bit, that we will see an avalanche of offense on Sunday night underneath the lights.
Hey, I'm usually never the pessimistic one on any show because I'm Mr. Optimistic, but I love being out optimisticized by you, Rob. So
Homer.